interrupt your program to bring you this important podcast. How to 911.
Can you put me out of service on a podcast, please?
Welcome back, everybody. We're doing some real cool stuff. Recording again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've listened to other episodes. I hope so. But we record in bulk 99% of the time. And so it's been a while since we've recorded, but we still have a lot of bulk episodes still to put out. So when you are listening to this, it's probably 6 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to even tell you when this is recorded, but just know that this is a long day of recording and fun events.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about police and fire call questioning, because I feel like a lot of people, we've explained like why we ask general things like weapons and stuff like that, but I think we're going to dive into it a little bit more to help people understand a little bit more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How it happens. So there's no way for us to cover every possibility, because sometimes I answer the phone and I'm still like, ugh.
What is this?
What is this, and what are you saying to me? What is on fire? What is that considered?
Mm-hmm.
Is a dumpster fire a structure fire?
Right.
Is it an unconfirmed grass fire? Like, I don't know. It would never be an unconfirmed grass fire,
but it's going through our heads. What is this?
What is this, and how do I help? So, if we don't cover something, just email us at howto911@cityofloveland.org. So, here we go. We're diving right in. When we answer those 911 phone calls, and it's a structure fire, what kind of things would we ask?
Is there anyone in the house?
Yeah, I think that's the first thing that I think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, is anybody in the house?
Uh-huh.
If so, how many?
Right.
Like, do you know where they are in the house?
Yep. Can you get, like, if you're in the house, can you get out?
Yes, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Because, not saying that the fire department isn't already coming as fast as they can.
Right.
At least that way they know, a different plan of attack. Because if there's nobody in the house, they have different tactics on approaching fires. Obviously, they're not going to go into the house unless there's people inside. I don't know. That's probably wrong.
I don't know. Their tactics have definitely changed over the years, and it'd be interesting to sit down with someone, which I'm sure we have planned at some point, to talk with them about, what are they thinking when they go there and they know that someone's inside versus when someone's not inside, because they get on scene and they have their own phrases that they use and what they mean, and or what it means to everyone that's responding, so they can hear it. So when they get on scene and it's, flames are shooting out of the house, but we know no one's inside, it's going to be a property, like, offensive attack, property risk only, or I can't think of the phrases right now, but they're going in thinking we're trying to stop this from burning and from burning other houses, versus I have to get inside and save someone's life.
Right.
So
we have to get inside and get the fire back enough to clear a path to get to that person. They do a lot of ventilation stuff that they have to do with structure fires. Yes. And like I said, it's changed over the years, and I really think in the past few years, again, it'd be great to have someone talk more about this, but I had gone to a training where, you see on TV, they all rush in and they try and put out the fire. Now it's more, if we know no one's inside, they're closing up the house and they use fog nails. So it's coming in from, if that's where the fire is. Yeah. If it's not in the kitchen or something, or maybe the kitchen's upstairs. So they put in the fog nails, and it's like a big shower head. You poke it through the top of the roof, and it gives this fine mist of water instead of like hoses necessarily. And then it like tamps down the fire so much quicker and easier than just throwing water on it. Yeah, and I feel like that's probably conserving a lot of water use then. Yeah. And saving, I don't know, the house next to it, depending on where it is and whatnot, so. Yeah. Also, like, if there's people in the house, like I said, it's important to know where they are, so that, like, firefighters, if you can say, like, the bathroom's on the south side of the house in this corner, they can go and see if there's a window and, like, try to get the person out that way. Right. If
they're unable to make it through the house. They have these really cool, I don't know if they do this, but I imagine that this is what I would do if I were a firefighter. This isn't a part of your training. I'm sorry. Disclosure, I'm making this up. But they have really cool, like, I mean, I've seen pictures of them doing trainings like this, but I just don't know the instances in which they would use it. Anyways, they have, basically they have tools like hatchets and like really heavy duty tools to rip down walls. And I imagine that's probably a way that they can probably try to save somebody too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So in the question, or the questions that we asked, if anyone's inside, like that's what we're thinking about. So like this one thing, you know, that's how we're already thinking. What are they going to do when they get on scene? Even though we don't have any ways of
I just think that's so funny. We just go off on these tangents.
like, oh yeah, this one thing. But again, like I said, that's how our brain works. Like if you have this one thing and then here are these other million different ways that we could think about it.
Yeah.
So if there's no one inside, and pets are included too.
Right.
If we know that they do not have to go inside, then I can ask them other questions. So if you call and say, my house is on fire. Okay, great. Not great. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. I have this information. Is anyone inside? No. What's on fire? How did this start? If you tell me your oven's on fire because you burned
your turkey on Thanksgiving.
Right, which may or may not be close to this date.
Yeah.
I know that might be different than it being in the attic versus being in the washer and dryer room or in the bathroom, or you set something on fire.
Yeah. And how the fire started is really important, because if it's like a chemical fire, the firefighters have to fight that differently. So if for some reason you were thinking like, hey, I'm going to do this really deep cleaning, I'm just going to mix all of my cleaning products together, and then somehow I have an open flame, or I don't know, chemicals probably catch on fire. Science is weird. But yeah, those things happen. So like they have different ways to handle different situations. So that's important. If your vehicle, wait, no, that's a different part. Never mind. That's the next step.
Oh.
I'm not going to.
No, okay.
Okay, if your vehicle is on fire, they're going to handle that differently too, because it's like there's gasoline attached to this vehicle that can explode at any moment. So I don't know how they handle that kind of stuff, but like that's important to know, especially if it's like your vehicle in your garage, in your home. That's like, we list that basically as a structure fire, because your house is probably more than likely going to catch on fire here soon, or explode because your car is on fire and there's gasoline attached to it. Large amounts, unless you run your tank empty a lot. So yeah. Maybe this is a PSA to just run your tank on empty. Don't do that. Don't break down the side of the road and say those girls told me to do it because my house will explode otherwise.
Definitely don't do that.
No, don't.
But you're right. Is it a small vehicle? Is it a semi that's just got done filling up, or it's a gas tanker that's coming to fill up at the
gas station?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. We get calls, I wouldn't say quite often, but pretty often about vehicles on fire. And most of the time, it's being confused because the vehicle's smoking, but where there's smoke, there's fire. So if you see a vehicle smoking on the side of the road, call us. Yeah. Like, I'd rather send an engine and then be like, oh, it's just smoking because of whatever car problems causes that.
Definitely.
Than, like, all of a sudden, the car explodes on the side of the road.
Right. Yeah,
like the movies, right?
Right, yeah. Just don't. Just if you're not sure, give us a call.
Yeah, that's good. Outside fires, those are very like different categories. So there's like grass fire, which would be kind of like when you see on the side of the road, like farmers, they burn their ditches sometimes, and if that got out of control, I would list that as a grass fire. Then we also have the category of wildland fire, which is more in like rural areas where it can kind of spread, but there's not like structures around that it could be threatened right now. Yeah? Is that a good explanation? Cool. And then there's... What else is there?
That's it.
Okay. So grass fire, wildland fire, so...
Yeah, kind of like the same thing but different, and that's, again, we ask the questions of exactly where this is, and then And then they know going into it. So if I tell you that it's at Weld County Road and Weld County Road, we know we're a grass fire versus up the canyon. We know we're hiking or whatever up to it.
And then also, like, if it is like a grass fire, I think if you say there's a fire outside, we're probably going to ask pretty quickly, is it near a structure or is it near people, or like what is it near, to just kind of gauge the level of like I wouldn't say urgency, but just let the responders, the firefighters know that, you know, it's not there yet, but it's threatening a structure, or it's threatening a barn or something like that. Also, where was I going with this? Smoke investigations. I don't think I have this listed on here, but they're also quite popular, especially when we had the fires going on around here. People would always say, I wouldn't say always, quite often we got a lot of phone calls of people asking about the smoke coming from this direction, and where they were suggesting the smoke was coming from. We would be like, oh, it's from the Cameron Peak fire. But if they were certain that it was closer than the Cameron Peak fire, then we would send units to check on it just in case. Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't the Cameron Peak fire, but it's always, again, better to err on the side of caution if you feel like it's a new plume of smoke that's not from something you know before. And the best, like, if you know your directions, if you know, like, your areas, like, I don't know how people live out in the county and they're like, oh, I think that looks like it's near Jebediah's farm, about 20 miles east of there. I don't know. But, like, there's people that give descriptions like that. Yeah. It's like, how can you just, like, judge your distance from, like, looking out in the distance? I don't get it. That blows my mind. But, I mean, the better description you have for where the firefighters are going. I'm sure if there's a plume of smoke, the firefighters will also see it. But there are times where they're like, we're not seeing anything. Do they have a better location, or what is their address, so we have a point of reference? Yeah, so, yeah, smoke investigations. It happens. Yeah. It
happens. I'm going to go really quick back to just a outside fire. Like, we'll also ask, like, if the person can see it, like, they can actually see what's on fire, how big it is. Yeah. Because that kind of helps them, start coming into it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of similarly, people will call in about neighbors having bonfires, especially with the fire ban that was going on. That's fine, because, I mean, obviously fires start fires, but if you just see a lot of smoke coming from your neighbor's house, but you don't see flames, we'll probably put it as like an unconfirmed structure fire. It's not going to have as large of a response as a structure fire. So when the first unit gets on scene, they'll advise, yeah, it's a real structure fire, or no, it's just a smoker in the backyard that's kicking up a lot of smoke. So, I mean, during fire season, I think a lot of people get, I wouldn't say paranoid, but very, like...
cautious.
Very cautious. That's a much better word. Very cautious, and I don't blame them, because... Well, we just had the largest fire in history. Right. So, I mean, not history, but like Colorado history, I think. So, in all of history, it was the largest fire.
In all of everything.
The dinosaurs would probably beg to differ, but here we are. So, the next thing that to get calls on, believe it or not, we get calls of people on fire. Those are very rare. And now that I said that, we're probably going to get a call. Sorry, guys. But, like, that's one of those things where it's just like, what's on fire? This person's on fire. Okay, we're dropping a call, and we're giving you instructions on what they should be doing to put out the fire. Such as, I don't know if you guys remember, but there's this cool thing called stop, drop, and roll. I realize in a moment of, like, I don't know, when you're on fire, you're probably, like, just freaking out because you're on fire. So having somebody, like, tell you to do those things that we were taught at such a young age, like, it really can help at least contain the fire until somebody with more expertise can get there and put it out. But, I mean, other than that, I can't think of anything else that we would do for a person on fire. I mean, obviously, address and where are they, what caused the fire, is anything else on fire?
Yeah, put it out and
hope we can put it out.
Yeah. Status check them.
Yeah, ambulance. And also, I want to just say that an ambulance goes to a majority of these calls. Yes. Especially like a structure fire, because not only if there's people in the structure, or if there's a home, but like for firefighters' own safety, because unfortunately firefighters do get injured on the line of duty, and it's just nice to have an ambulance there standing by just in case, because fires and like buildings collapsing and like the things that they could get into. Not to say it's not more urgent than like a police officer getting in a shooting, but it's just like we can't have an ambulance for every single police call.
Right.
So
behind them.
Yeah. So we usually have an ambulance for like major incidents like structure fires, and for a person on fire, obviously an ambulance is going to that.
Definitely going.
Can you think of anything else for that?
No.
So next on the list is aircraft crash. I haven't had one of these. I know questions vary. I guess it depends on if it's like an in-air emergency or, well, I mean, when I said aircraft crash, like obviously it's crashed, but more than just crash, like aircraft fire emergencies in general. Is it still in the air, or is it touchdown? And when it touched down, like, did it crash, or did it like kind of land but still not doing too well?
Did it crash like because the landing gear wasn't all the way down and it kind of like had a bumpy like landing, or did it, and they still need someone, you know, to come and look at everyone, or did it crash, things are crunched, people are hurt, things are on fire.
Bad situations. So our fire department has a fire station at the, I was going to say fire unit, fire squad.
Both.
Fire station at the airport here. Our airport isn't like a commercial airport like Denver has, but there are planes that take off every once in a while, and there are times that like large commercial airlines do have to like emergency land here for like whatever reason, which always, I haven't had anything like that happen, but I've heard that like when larger planes do land and take off here, that people are calling in thinking that the plane's crashing.
It's unusual. We've had Southwest.
Really?
Southwest when I'm pointing, and that's not helping anyone. When Denver has to divert planes, sometimes, I don't know when they have to land, like if they're out of fuel or whatever, but they there's just enough landing.
Runway?
Yeah, thank you. I was like, the landing strip?
It's like Tyra Banks. It's a runway.
Yeah, exactly. It's the runway. For them to be able to stop and then take off. And yes, it's very unsettling because if you're, you know, at other airports, they have a nice long extra runway for them to use. But here it's just enough for that size of aircraft to be able to land. So bad weather in Denver, just something going on there. They rarely, but it does happen. Southwest, Frontier might have been able to land here, and then Allegiant had been flying out of here for a while. So a small plane, but still big. And then, of course, I mean, it's private jets and all kinds of fancy things.
People that are like training to be like flying something. I don't know.
Yep, the people that are,
flying freaks me out. It's fine. Anyways, so if it's not people calling in on 911 about an airplane incident or aircraft incident, it's the aircraft control that we have here. They have a phone line that's directly to us, and they will tell us like, we have like codes and stuff. I don't know those codes. But the great thing about it is that policy pops up anytime we enter a call that has anything to do with the airport, that'll explain the codes to me. So they tell us this code or whatever it is, and we'll get help that way. And basically they'll have like the best information because they're directly speaking to the captain that's flying the plane, and they'll be able to see what's going on if it did indeed crash, or if it was just a landing gear malfunction or whatever is going on. And then we'll tone out obviously the station that's at the fire department. The station that's at the fire department, the station that's at the airport, and then also depending on what kind of incident, we're probably going to get a million other engines. And what's really cool is that we just got a new CAD. So I believe since it's so far north, we might start pulling Fort Collins engines to like that kind of incident.
In winter. Yep. So that's if it happens at the airport, which is great. But we've had a plane crash.
Oh yeah.
Over at...
I forgot that planes don't always crash at the airport. Or they hardly ever crash at the airport.
Right, well, yeah, no, that's not... But hopefully they hardly ever crash.
Period.
Yeah. But we've had... I can't remember what, like, maybe it was Lon Hagler, and I think it might have... I can't remember where it crashed, like if it was into the water or not. But so if we are talking to citizens, you know, we're trying to get the best location, like usual, of where they're seeing it. where they think it might have landed. And then if we happen to be able to talk to someone that is on the plane, we're asking them, where are you, of course, as well? How many souls are on board? How much fuel do you have on? What is it that is an emergency for you? Mm-hmm. And then, heaven forbid, if they do crash, of course, we can't get that information. But so we're just getting where is it? Do you know if anyone's hurt?
Yeah, unfortunately for those kinds of things, especially an aircraft thing, we can't really give instructions on what to do.
Right.
At that point, it's just kind of we have to wait for the fire department to get there, and they know what to do.
Right.
Thanks, guys and ladies.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, people.
Yeah, thanks, peeps. So next is alarms. So those would be more along the lines of fire alarms that we get from commercial places, and there's also residential areas that have fire alarms. So that will come up as a smoke alarm, or sometimes it just comes in as a general fire alarm. That doesn't really give us much information. What other types? There's CO alarms that come into us. So whatever you can think of that's fire related. If you have an alarm system, that's cool.
Yeah.
The alarm company will call us, and we'll ask the alarm company, obviously, the address, what zone has been activated. So it's kind of similar to the structure fire, where's the fire at? Sometimes they'll say zone 1, but no given location, so that's kind of a big bummer. So if you have an alarm, will you tell your alarm company what zone 1 is? Thank you so much. And then they'll tell us the type of fire alarm if they have that, and then we'll ask if they have notified any key holders, because sometimes it's just burnt food, and so if they've called beforehand and they were explained that but gave false code or something like that, they'll still ask for us to respond, or if they need help resetting the alarm, that happens a lot. But if they weren't able to get a hold of any key holders, we'll get a premise number and a phone number for a key holder, just in case it is a real fire and we need to get a hold of somebody. Then what else would we ask? I think that's it for alarms.
Yeah,
because they really don't have a whole lot more information. So next big thing that we cover is rope rescues, which basically means if it's an inaccessible incident that they need more equipment. It's kind of rough riding. What is it? What am I looking for?
I don't know. I like rough roading.
They're rough roading it. Dang it, there's a term for it. Off-roading.
Yeah.
They're off-roading. If you or somebody fell down the side of a cliff hiking, or if you're just walking and you hear somebody yelling for help. I don't know. Yeah,
so I'm thinking of, we have this mostly at Devil's Backbone. So people are up hiking, and so we have 2 situations that we can use a rope rescue. They've hurt themselves, they're on the trail, and the responding units have to take up an ATV or a UTV.
Yeah.
And then get up there. So it's really the rope rescue force is the response. But there's also, if you fall off the side of something and we have to go down into a ravine and they need to use the rope. So it's this really super technical rescue to get down there. So the thing that we always ask, where are you? If you're up at Devil's Backbone and you've been hiking for an hour, you're not in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So we need you to tell us, where on the trail do you think you are? And shocking, sometimes people don't know.
Yeah.
Because
honestly,
they're from out of town, or you just don't know that each little bit has a trail name. So you have to tell us, I'm about 45 minutes up.
I've been hiking for 45 minutes. Yeah.
I fell off the side and I need help. So it's going to take them that amount of time to get to you.
And most of the time, depending on this, I wouldn't say depending on, I would probably keep that person on the line.
Yes, 100%.
Just because you're somewhere where we cannot verify your location.
Yes.
We can get, depending on where you are with cell service and stuff like that, we'll probably get a phase 2 and a better location. But then again, it's technology. I don't know if I trust it out in the middle of nowhere.
In the mountains.
In the mountains. No, it's all good. I don't know if I trust it in the mountains. So we will keep you on the line for those 45 minutes just to make sure that they get right to you. Because if they're okay, we think we're in the area, can they start shouting? Can you start shouting for the fire department's shouting for you. Kind of just use those things to try to help us make sure that you get the help that you need. Real quick, there's an episode of Emergency Call where there's this guy who's like lost in the Alaskan wilderness, and he's like, I'm by this river. He's like trying to tell them where they are, and I mean, I don't know how Alaska dispatchers do this. Again, we're back to Alaska. Tell us how you do your job. I guess that's why we have him on a TV show. Anyways, and the guy, it was cold, I think, and he really couldn't yell. He was weak. He was probably injured. I didn't really pay attention. I don't really like watching that, but they showed on the map that the responders were going the wrong direction. They were like showing where the dude was, and then they were showing that the responders were like, okay, we're crossing the river where he says he's at, and then we're going this way. And then the guy was just like, no, they're going the wrong way. But he only had 1% battery on his phone. Yeah, so the dispatcher was just like, I'm not going to keep you on the line. So when they start to get close, like, I'm going to call you or something like that to see like if we can better help where they are. And he was able to get them on the line long enough to know that they were going the wrong way and tell them to turn around. But I think also at that point that they had lost connection with their responders.
Oh, man.
Because of the radio. Something weird. I'm probably messing up this whole episode. I'm just making everything up. But it was just this crazy thing where it's like, if we're able to keep you on the line, if your phone dies, like, just know that we're sitting there staring at our screens like,
no.
Yeah.
Also, charge your phone.
Yes, if you're going
to
go...
Keep a little charger.
Yeah. Pay attention to trail markers. Pay attention to trail names. Pay attention to, like, a lot of things. What's surrounding you. Whatever. Don't say I'm next to the big rock.
Please don't.
Please don't.
Or the tree.
Or that big tree. There's lots of trees and lots of rocks. Here we go. So next would be water rescue. That can be domestic water or non-domestic water. Basically, domestic means pools and hot tubs and things that are domesticated. Like animals. Yep. Non-domestic are things like lakes and ponds and oceans and rivers. So.
And then also swift water.
Oh, which is rivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang it.
But no, I'm just like layers.
So many layers of waters.
Yes.
So those water rescues, again, it's just a specialized team that's responding out. They have boats, they have gear to get into the water, they have all kinds of stuff. This happens with vehicle and water. Obviously, if someone's having an emergency in the middle of a lake with their boat's sinking, that's going to call for a water rescue. Someone's drowning in a pool, that's going to call for a water rescue. So any call that you can think of, that's what it's going to call. And then we're going to ask you, obviously, the type of water, because we just listed, we're not going to send our units with a boat to a pool water rescue, because they don't need a boat in a pool, but we'll send them to the lake one.
Yes.
So it depends on those kinds of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had one recently that they were on Boyd Lake, and my phase 2 was like right on.
Yeah.
It was really impressive.
That's nice.
They're like, oh, they need to go to this little inlet, and I was like, that is where you are on my map. It was very impressive. Yeah. So even if you're not, if you get injured in the water, if you're water skiing, whatever, and if you pass out on the boat because you're like heat stroke or whatever, I'm going to send it as a water rescue because they need the boat to get to you. Yeah. And if you can't drive the boat back, or you're the only person there and you're not feeling good and you need help, they're going to come as a water rescue because they need all that specialized equipment just to get to you. Right. And to get you back.
Right. And then, like, if they need to dive and find something, God forbid, they have the dive team that's also attached to that.
And so as far as questions...
Yeah, we just keep giving scenarios.
Right. And then if you did this thing, but, I mean, we are finding out these scenarios via questions that we're not verbalizing, but, oh, shoot. Where was I going with that?
I don't know. Do you want me to just start talking about scenarios again?
Maybe well, I think I was going to talk about another... maybe I was just going to mention that we're not going to hang up with a person who's in a non-domestic body of water. So, like, the Boyd Lake one, I didn't hang up until they could, like, you're making eye contact with someone.
Right. Because, especially during the summer, Boyd Lake is packed with people, and it's packed with boats. So when we get responders to that main parking lot or wherever they pull into, I assume the main parking lot. I don't know. I've never been to Boyd Lake. I just look at it on a map. Anyways, like, you say it's the blue boat. I'm in the blue boat. Like, okay, cool. There's probably 4 other blue boats.
Yeah.
So just making sure that they get in contact with the right person is really important to us. Yeah. Next is for child locked in vehicle. This is kind of interesting because people will call us because they locked their keys in their car, and we'll ask, is there a kid inside? And they're like, no. We're like, well, we're not sending somebody out. Sorry. That's because our police officers don't carry the right tools, and the tools that they do have will like damage your car.
Yeah.
And it's a liability.
Right. It's not 1975 anymore. We could go with a coat hanger.
Right.
And pop the lock.
Right. And some officers don't even carry that equipment. So that's why it is covered under the fire part, because the firefighters, I'm not sure what equipment they have. It might just be an axe to the window, but they will respond with officers to child locked in vehicle, just because that's a serious situation, especially during the summertime. Like, you know, we all know about heat and how it doesn't go very well in cars. But we'll ask, like, how old is the child? Where are you? If you're in a parking lot, like, we need a good description. We need a vehicle description. Like, are you able to, like, flag down the responders? But just want to disclaim, like, just know that, like, if there's not a life or death emergency going on with your keys locked in your car, we're not going to send anybody. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. Sorry. But, I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here for emergency helping. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to talk about is motor vehicle accidents. Fire will respond to this for different circumstances. Obviously, for car accidents, they're going to respond because there might be extrication. If there is extrication, we'll ask questions like, how many people are stuck? What kind of vehicle is it? Just so they can kind of prepare to know what kind of equipment they need to bring in, if they need to bring in the jaws of life, if that's even what it's called. Whatever things they need. Sometimes they just need to break a window. I don't know. But, so that matters. And then fuel spills. If there is a car accident, usually they are looking for hazards like fuels. But we need to know, like, if it's a tanker truck, like, what chemical are they carrying? Can you see a hazard placard? Can you see, like, how many gallons are spilling? Or, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell gallons because I feel like every time I spill a glass of water, that water that I spilled is 3 times more than what was in my cup. But if it, like, is it a large amount? Is it pouring out? Is it dripping out? Like, those kinds of things are kind of important to know. What other instances can you think of that are just fire related?
Just fire related for MVs. Nope, that's sounds like all, because if there's debris in the roadway, yes, the fire department or the police officer could sweep it up with, whatever. But the tow companies are also responsible for that when they get on scene. So if a vehicle's going to get towed, that would be handled by them. The fire department carries around Absorbol to clean up those fuel spills. And then thinking about like extrication and asking them, like, oh, her car door is stuck. I will ask, do you think she needs to be cut out of the car? Like, what does that car accident look like? Or is it just, like, crunched a little bit where they gotta just pop it? So we know if we do have to upgrade it to an extrication, and it doesn't have to be necessarily that the person is super injured, just that they, out of abundance of caution for the patient, want to maybe not move them and have them crawl over the center console to get out the other side. Yeah. So how are they going to get them out? And us erring on the side of more rather than less in those instances.
Yeah. I don't know if I can put this in here so you can tell me no. But the other day, it's probably like a few months ago now, but we had an instance where I believe it was State Patrol or CDOT was asking us for an extrication response. It was out in the canyon, and when crews got on scene, they were like, not an extrication, the door was just locked. So it's like in those moments of panic, it's just like walking through, it's just like, is your car unlocked? Is that why you can't get out?
Yeah.
So,
have you tried the doorknob?
Yeah. So one of those kind of things. I mean, in a moment of panic, that who knows what's going to happen? You don't know until you're in it. So at that moment of time, even responders were like, we can't get her out.
That's, like I've said before, we are our callers' common sense when in a time of panic, you lose those sensibilities. So
yeah.
Did you try turning it the other way?
Yeah.
It doesn't work going that way.
Right. Yeah. So that was kind of funny. Next is something that I really hope that all of these things we're talking about, I'm not manifesting it into the world. Because the next one is explosions!
I don't want anyone to get hurt, but all of these things sound like a lot of fun, but I'm also off for a little while, so...
So you can explode the city of Loveland all you want.
Explosions, plane crashes, that no one's in it and gets hurt.
People on fire.
Yeah. Mannequins. People we thought were people, but they're actually mannequins.
These are mannequins on fire, and you're doing pop rockets in the street. Those are the explosions.
Yay!
Yeah.
That's great.
Gosh. Explosions. Did you just hear it? Can you see it? Can you see flames? Can you see smoke? Like, what do you think exploded? Because, I mean, I'm not an explosion expert, but I wish we had Officer or Sergeant Ertman in here because he probably would be able to tell us that different things exploding might make different sounds. I don't know. Like, you can tell when it's like something metal is exploding, I would imagine, versus something underground where it's more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, condensed sound.
Yeah. Because it's covered up and
submerged. Yeah. I don't know. That's what I would imagine. I would imagine you could at least get an idea of like that sounded like a building or that sounded like a dirt field.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think?
Yeah,
maybe I'm making false assumptions.
No. Yeah. But I'm also thinking about when people say this is like someone's shooting off a gun and it's July 3rd, and you're like, okay, are we sure it's not fireworks? And they're like, no, I know for sure it's not. So, I'm going to go with that because I'm not going to...
I'm not there. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong.
Right. More often than not, it's going to be fireworks.
Yeah. I mean, even if, like, an officer is in the area because they know it's a heavy firework area.
Right.
I mean, we have those areas each year. We know, like, around 8 p.m., we're going to start getting calls in this neighborhood because this one house or two houses or whatever starts lighting off fireworks. And the officers will just hang out there and we'll get reports of gunshots. And they're like, nope, there weren't any gunshots. I just watched 2 fireworks go up into the air. So it's those kinds of things where, like, maybe it's just, like, the way that it echoed into their house. They didn't, like, it doesn't sound right. Maybe it sounds like a gun. Yeah. I mean, there are times where fireworks, like, if you don't hear that sizzle at the end, you're like, was it a gunshot? Yes. And again, we'd rather you err on the side of caution and call us than just say, it was totally fireworks and then there was a shooting and someone was dead.
Right.
So.
Going back to actually asking the questions for explosions, and so I remember, I think I was in training and there was an explosion and it was, I don't remember what it was that had exploded, but fire department was out there for so long. We have, like we talked about in the EMD episode, whenever that came out.
It's going to come out after this.
Great. When we talk about the EMD protocol, there's an explosion card, so we can ask questions about who's injured. So, of course, too, depending on if the person's there versus I thought I heard this. If they're there and they're working at, like, a gas station, they're like, our pumps just exploded. Was anyone injured? Just like with the structure fires, is anyone inside who was hurt? So we know we have that expectation going into it that we need to rescue someone or save someone.
Right. And also, if you just heard it, but we're trying to get more information, we're probably going to ask you these questions. Like, can you see anybody? Like, does it... When we're asking you those things, like, we're not there, so we're just asking, like, just in case there's by some chance you saw people running away, or you saw something, or you heard somebody running away say something about it. Like, we don't know exactly, so we're just trying to best get that information to our responders. And also, by us asking that, we're not telling you to get closer to the explosion and give us this information. No, I want you to stay where you are if you feel that you're safe where you are, and just tell us as best as you can if you have any answers to the questions we're asking. Please do not put yourself in harm's way if there's an explosion or a house fire or any of these things that we're talking about. Do not enter this unsafe zone. Please.
Yes.
One of our rules of dispatching is like we don't want to, I don't remember the rule verbatim, but basically it's like we don't want to create more victims.
Right.
Like that's the last thing that we're trying to do is create more. Like, unfortunately, if you're calling us for an explosion, there's a good chance that someone's hurt or property is hurt, so we don't want to cause more damage by getting you hurt.
And there's also one in EMD that which is not looked for is seldom found.
Yeah.
So if I'm not asking these questions about, you think it's silly, and or I didn't ask, and you're like, well, she never asked me if I know who made the explosion or who set off
right,
the
and
gas
it was
pumps.
my cousin Tim.
Yeah, and I did it with him. Like, that would have been silly for me to not ask, so we asked just in case.
Yeah, and sometimes, I don't know if we're just going through questions and we forget something and you're just kind of or not forget something, but if we don't have any questions to ask, we're just like, okay, thanks, bye. Mm-hmm. First of all, that's a bad dispatcher, and I'm sorry if that happens, but me as a caller, if that happened to me, I'd be like, oh, okay, I thought I had more to tell you, but I guess not. So, if there's something, don't tell us a whole story, but if you're like, also, I saw this guy that had, burned hands running this direction, tell us things that we can't see that we might not think about asking of. So, if you think something's suspicious, we're here for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Next is gas lines. They get cut sometimes, especially with construction work or building of new houses or just anything really. Just make sure that if you're going to be digging in your home, to call the gas company, because there are lines under your house buried somewhere that you could cut. If you're digging for a pool, call the gas company and make sure you can dig for a pool where you want your pool.
And if you call 811,
yes,
all the companies will be notified. Excel, et cetera, utilities in your area.
I like that. 811.
811.
Yes. So those kinds of questions most likely will be, we're just not going to say where is it, because that's just hopefully understood at this point.
Yeah.
How big is the line? Is it 2 inches? Is it 3 inches? Is it 4 inches? Did you barely cut it? Did you cut all the way through it? Is it hissing out? Is it just pouring out? Do you hear anything? Because sometimes you can cut into the line, but maybe the line's a little thick that you didn't get all the way through. But if you barely got through, it's going to start hissing. Those noises that it makes. What kind of gas is it? Is it natural gas? What other? Would that be the only gas?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll edit that out. I don't know.
Is it? I think that's it.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay.
And then, is anybody, around it? Is there anything that could make this turn into a fire?
Yes.
So let's make sure everyone gets away from the area so that at least the fire department can get there and at least clamp it off until the gas company can get there to turn the gas off and fix it. So if you can, call us first, because we're going to get there faster than the gas company, but also call them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we won't call the gas company until the fire department asks us, because sometimes they can fix it on their own. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes it doesn't require the gas company to come out. Sometimes it's not what the caller thought it was, so depending on the situation, I won't call the gas company until the fire department asks me. If it's somebody that's a construction worker and they're like, yeah, I definitely cut a gas line, I'm going to call the gas company.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't want to... a good example of this, which we're going to get into the next one, is when people say that their CO alarm's going off. I'm not going to call the gas company right away. I'm going to have them get out of the house, close everything, and then the fire department will go and get their readings and then say, yeah, we do need the gas company to come out. Or whatever. Yeah. So that's probably better. If you cut a gas line, I'm probably going to call the gas company for you. Yes, that was a really poor excuse. I could see Erica staring at me
I'm so bummed I don't have a good poker face. But yeah, I was I could always call. So yes, the CO alarm versus a cut gas line, I will always call.
Yeah.
Right away. But yes.
Sorry, I was thinking of other instances where we call Excel and I'm I'm going to wait to call them when they ask, and that would be the instance of it's alarm. You don't know if it's a defective alarm. You don't know if it just needs a battery changed. If someone tells me their CO alarm's going off, I don't care if you think it's your battery that needs to be changed. I'm going to take that seriously and think that there might be CO in the home.
Yes.
Because sometimes they'll say, like, contact a
technician?
Yeah, but no, like not a plumber. But like with the water heaters, sometimes they'll malfunction, and like that's the source of it. And like, homeowner's going to take care of it. There are no readings inside, but they're going to contact like a handyman.
I see. Yeah. So yeah, the odor investigation. So we're gonna kind of talked about it already. Basically, it's like outdoor or indoor. Depends. We need to specify between the two. If it's outdoor odor, where is it coming from? Can you kind of pinpoint like what kind of odor it is? Does it smell like natural gas? Does it smell like sulfur? Like what are you smelling? Because those kind of smells, I guess, help the fire department understand what it is they're looking for, and if it's something that they are able to find and stabilize if it is a danger. Fun fact: did you know that natural gas doesn't have an odor naturally?
That's why it smells like rotten eggs.
No. Like, does it smell like rotten eggs? I thought that was just like the backup of sewage.
I think isn't that what they do with natural gas? They give it a...
Yeah, they put a smell in it because people would die because they couldn't smell it.
Natural gas is an efficient, safe, colorless, and odorless gas. For easy detection, we add a harmless chemical called mercaptan to give gas a distinctive odor. Most people describe the smell as rotten eggs or hydrogen sulfide-like odor. It smells bad for a good reason in case of a gas leak.
There we go. If it's indoor, like, I guess kind of the same thing. Like, what does it smell like? Where can you tell where it's coming from? Like, those kinds of things. And those are the instances in which, if it's your alarm going off, that's not an odor. Your alarm doesn't smell odors. Wait, yeah, it does. That's how it goes off.
It's like you're detecting something.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
My brain just caught up to what an alarm does.
Oh, it makes sense now. That's what an alarm does.
So, when your alarm smells this odor...
you just bought an expensive nose.
Yeah, you just bought an expensive nose. But again, like, that's something that, like, could be a faulty detector. We also, for odor investigations, if it is CO related, which is probably a good chance, we'll ask if anybody feels sick if it's inside a residence. Probably if it's outside, if you've been in close contact too. Just because CO does make you sick and it can cause fatality, which is obviously what we don't want. So we will ask you if you feel sick, how many people are also in the house, and if they feel sick. And also before the fire department response, we want you to get out of the house, and we'll ask for you to close the doors and windows so that they can get a good reading of what exactly is going on in the house. And I know it's going to suck, like, sometimes if it's hot in the summer or if it's a cold winter, we want you to get out of the house because it's CO.
We don't want
you to get sick. Yeah. I mean, it's only a couple of minutes until the fire department gets there, but that's a couple of minutes where something could happen. You never know. I don't know how fast the effects of CO is.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Well, if you know, tell us, I guess. Is that it for fire? Can you think of anything else that's kind of major that we would ask questions about?
I think that's it. Those are the big ones.
Yeah, those are the big ones. Again, if you think of anything that you're just wondering about how we would handle, or like what kind of questions would be asked if you wanted to prepare yourself for an emergency, which is what you should do. Send us an email. We'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Hey guys, it's Sami. Erica and I originally did this episode wanting to do police and fire questioning in one, but as I was going through and editing it, I didn't realize, I guess neither of us realized how long the episode actually ended up being. So just for time purposes, because I don't want you guys to have to feel like you have to listen through an hour worth of things, I just wanted to split it up. So this is actually going to be just fire questioning for this episode, and then look forward to having the police questioning coming out in an episode soon, and then we'll have our medical questioning soon after that. Just wanted to throw it in here real quick. Also, Erica's not with me because I'm editing this at home, so I'm just going to do a quick outro for you guys. You know the dealio. If you have any questions, you can email us at the email we've said a million times in this episode. It is howto911@cityofloveland.org. And then you can follow us on Instagram at howto911podcast. We are also on YouTube at howto911podcast. We have Facebook at Loveland Emergency Communications Center. I hope you guys all had a happy holiday and continue to have happy holidays through this season and be safe. Until then, know where you are, know your phone number, and tell us exactly what happened.